The Isle of Man's monopoly gas supplier has been in the news a lot recently. First due to the massive price increases that the Isle of Man has been subject to, and more lately due to problems with the new billing system that saw people receive no bills, too high bills, and basically wrote everyone sick. Now, while that is being addressed at the moment, and that is a good thing, this of course should not have happened in the first place. Manx Gas also recently rebranded to Isle of Man Energy, and as we all know, rebranding is usually what you do when things are going really well. All joking aside, the subject of this video is a relatively serious one, because all of us, we do need energy, and that means we either need oil, electricity or gas, and many of us of course heat our houses with gas, cook with gas, so we are dependent on our local energy suppliers. Which brings me to the Don't Pay movement in the UK. You may have heard about this campaign in the news recently. It was formed as a protest movement against the massive profits of UK energy suppliers, and at the time of making this video, 258,000 people have signed up to this campaign and pledged not to pay their electricity or their energy bills in general, or at least not to pay them until they absolutely have to. Now, while there is absolutely no way of knowing if any of the people who signed up for this really will not pay their bills, and if it's not just basically an online petition like all the other ones, it's still impressive to see over 250,000 people protesting this way. And that of course does bring up the question, what would happen if the Don't Pay movement came from the UK to the Isle of Man? I think there's at least one possible scenario worth exploring, but as I full well know that all of the legal departments of all Isle of Man energy suppliers, as well as all the local news, will be watching this video, and to avoid headlines like this one, let's not look at any particular local or Isle of Man specific real-world energy suppliers, and instead just have a bit of a hypothetical exercise. So join me as we travel from the Isle of Man to the fictional French region of Montpellier. It's somewhere in the south of France, has about 85,000 inhabitants, it's everything you know and love about France, and it has one monopoly energy supplier. This monopoly energy supplier, in turn, is part of a larger group of energy suppliers in various fictional French regions. This fictional group of companies, in turn, is owned by a fictional parent company, and this fictional parent company is really more of an investment company than an energy supplier. It primarily cares about generating as much money as possible for its shareholders, and it doesn't care very much about the end customers of all the various energy suppliers it owns. As a result, it asks the monopoly energy supplier to send as much money as possible upstream all the time to keep the shareholders happy. That means the cash flow of that particular energy supplier, or indeed all of them in the group, is very often very low. And that is not a good thing if you work in an environment where you have to buy a commodity that is very volatile and that can go up and down a lot in price. Because of their very low cash flow, they've already run into trouble at least twice in the past, and they had to go to the fictional local government, cap in hand, to ask to be rescued. The fictional monopoly energy supplier therefore depends on people paying their bills on time and paying them in general, or they may well be in trouble again. And trouble may come in the form of the local Don't Pay movement. Now, we all know there are three things the French are really good at. That's red wine, cheese and protesting. The local Don't Pay movement in Montpellier really takes off. People stop paying their bills, start ripping them up, and before you know it, the cash flow of the energy supplier is hit harder than an open bar at a Christmas office do. In turn, it then doesn't take very long until this energy supplier goes pop. That's of course not an ideal scenario for the residents of Montpellier, but worry not, the local government is the knight in shining armor. It comes riding in, scoops up the burning remains of the local energy supplier, renames it, and runs it at arm's length and for the benefit of the people. As a result, everyone lives happily ever after, people can actually afford to pay their bills, and basically we all meet and have some good French food. So that's a fictional story of, what may happen, hypothetically, if a Don't Pay movement comes to a small location with monopoly energy suppliers and people stop paying their bills. Now, just to be absolutely clear, I'm not saying that you should stop paying your bills. If you live in the Isle of Man and you have bills to pay, please do pay them, no matter who sends them to you from the energy suppliers. But I think there are some very valid questions to be asked on the back of this little hypothetical exercise. And in particular, the main question is, what are our politicians, in particular, of course, the MHKs, doing to ensure that the Isle of Man not only has a stable energy supply, but that it is affordable, and that the energy supplies we have are primarily run for the benefit of the people and not for the benefit of shareholders at the other end of the world. I think it's perfectly reasonable to ask why we don't have arm's length or people-owned or government-owned energy suppliers that really are run for us and not run to profit from us. I'm in absolutely no way suggesting that Isle of Man Energy or the MUA or anyone else who supplies energy to the Isle of Man are doing anything wrong. They're not. They are companies. They are there to make money. Well, at least Isle of Man Energy is, essentially a private company. They're here to make money, and that's what they're doing. That is their duty. So I'm not in any way saying that we shouldn't be paying our bills, but we should ask our MHKs what they are doing to ensure that we can still afford to pay those bills, because an increasing number of people cannot. And that's how I think a lot of this Don't Pay movement in the UK came along as well. A lot of the people who joined that, they probably didn't join it to be rebellious or to start a revolution. No, they did it because they have no other choice. They can't pay. You cannot pay what you don't have. And I remember the sickening feeling of getting huge gas bills, 20 years ago when I was earning less. And, you get this big gas bill and you have no idea how you're going to pay it. And it worries you and it keeps you awake at night. And it should not be that a rich nation like ours is sliding into this sort of cost of living crisis where people have to, consider, should they heat or should they eat? That's just not good enough. We need to start asking a lot harder questions to the politicians, why things are the way they are, and what more they could do to make sure we all can still afford to live here. Because without the basics in place, all these plans about bringing 100,000 people here, and it's pie in the sky. So get the basics right. Start asking the MHKs what they are doing to keep energy supplies in check. And, well, of course, if everything goes wrong, we can all move to a fictional French province. But to be honest, I'd much rather live here and be able to afford to live here and continue to see this place prosper. So that's all for this video. I hope it was useful. Please do let me know in the comments. Let's talk about it in the group or in the comments here. And let's put the heat on the politicians to make life here more affordable. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.